Do you have more pictures of your goats than yourself on your phone? Does your vacation time get spent attending goat shows? Can you have a conversation without bringing up dairy goats? Neither can we. So join us as we talk to the country's best breeders, judges, appraisers, and industry experts about all things dairy goats. We are John Kane and Danielle Caroli. Welcome to Ringside, an American Dairy Goat podcast.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Ringside, episode 200. Woo-hoo! Man, is that a good feeling? As always, I am joined by the Nubian one, the long-eared one, the loud one, Danielle Caroli. What's up?
What's up, John? I'm just gonna breeze really quickly through some of those things that were said about me really quick because we're on our 200th episode, and so everything is good. I'm gonna ignore the slight little whatever in that intro. And how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Kidding season hasn't started yet for me, so that's why I'm doing wonderful. We've got about 2 weeks left to go, but I gotta say, we're obviously just running right into what's going on our farms, and I've been spending the week tapping into some old Ringside episodes in preparation for this episode, and man, what an adventure it has been! Holy cow! But we'll dive into that. Danielle, how's your week going?
My week is going really well, though I have to say before we jump into that, I want to apologize because I feel like I failed as co-host extraordinaire. I should have sent over a bottle of champagne or something for you to pop, for us to pop on this episode. I think, who is it? The Barstool president, his dog's Instagram hit 200,000 and the dog got balloons, and I didn't send any to you. I didn't send a giant 200 balloon. So I apologize. I feel like I failed as my co-hosting duties. And so pretend like popping champagne right now. There's balloons that were delivered that say 200 in the background.
Listen, this is more fitting, as everybody knows, drink of choice. I have an extra one here, so there. We're popping Diet Coke cans on stream.
Gosh. I appreciate
Cheers.
the pop, but cheers. I appreciate the pop, but you need the bottles pretty soon. So
Well, I do have some left over from the Progressive show that are like 6 feet from me, but I think we'll just have to wait for the next big one.
oh, I meant the bottles of Coke for your baby goats, but
Oh, those don't worry, I have plenty of those. We're
okay.
fine.
Oh
Yes.
good. Okay.
Yeah. That's the next thing that I'm gonna quit doing, but I couldn't do it before kidding season, you know?
No. Yes, I was very grateful. My Diet Pepsi bottle supplier dropped off her stash of bottles because we are on Kid Watch here, and I had one day several weeks ago needed a soda, and I had my soda, and I've been keeping this singular bottle in my truck because I was scared I was not going to have any soda bottles. I mean, I just really do not, my drink of choice tends to be coffee or something in a more of like a plastic cup instead of that bottle. And so I had a singular soda bottle in my truck that I was just keeping just in case I needed it. And so with that, I arranged to make sure that I had some plastic bottles. And then as well, somebody so graciously offered to be the supplier of my beer bottles if I needed them as well. But
Very nice.
I was like, thank you. I responded to them. I was like, thank you for your sacrifice. I'm hoping I'm not going to have kids on beer bottles this year. As soon as I can, they're all going onto my milk bar because it's just going to make my life easier. So I'm hoping realistically the plastic bottles are only for the colostrum more or less, and then we're going to get those kids onto the milk bar. But it's always just stressful to when you don't have them, it's stressful, but we're waiting. I thought for sure I was going to be doing this episode delivering baby goats on one side of
Me
it,
too. Me too.
and and trying to admit people into the Zoom and manage all of that while delivering kids. But as of chore time this evening, her udder wasn't quite in yet. So we're just watching that. She is an older doe and I'm assuming she's carrying multiples.
Probably
Uh,
not.
you wish, but with that, she has room. So those babies are still they're still living the life in her uterus and just kind of hanging out. So with that, I think I have another day or two for her. I have an important Zoom meeting for work on Tuesday, and I am assuming that is going to be the time that she's going to decide to actually go, because it's one thing to have a ringside episode where the goat is delivering, but when you are talking to a board member that's used to living in the city and dealing with a different kind of thing and trying to present a fundraising development spreadsheet to them and also trying to deliver baby goats at the same time. I just don't necessarily know if that's going to be something that is going to be understandable. So I did put in place, and I'm thankful I can work from home when I need to, but I did put somebody on alert that if I have babies going at that time, they're going to have to come and at least be there, and I can troubleshoot for a little bit and hop off the Zoom and go take care of it all. But we're getting
Well,
close.
quick question. Quick
Okay.
question. Where do I fall on that list of people you reached out to? Because I have heard nothing of this. So am I like second, third, fourth, 10th, 50th? Like, where am I falling on this list?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
I really don't want to. No. Oh, Grace says bottom of the list.
Yeah. I am,
Ouch. Ouch.
listen, I am blessed. I have such a great group of people around me and very close to me. So in your defense, you're an hour, or in my defense, I guess I should say, you're an hour away. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have,
I work in the evening, so it would actually make sense to me on them. But no, it's fine. It's not you, it's me situation. I'm used to this in my life, so that's okay.
okay.
Cheers.
Um, so yeah, that's what I have somebody, we have Ashley who for, um, what is the word? Point of reference is in Maryland, and she is so right. She just commented in the chat. She called me first. So yes, yeah. Ashley's flying in from Maryland just for this delivery. I have somebody from Tennessee.
That's believable though, knowing Ashley. So yeah, I get it. Yeah.
No, but we'll see. We're still, her udder's not in. We're not at 24 hours yet, so it's the clock's ticking on that. And then I will be inducing 2 does for Thursday evening because I have to fly to Texas on Saturday. And so
Ooh.
I am inducing the dose to kid on Thursday so that this way everybody at home is only going to be watching one doe who will hopefully keep those babies in until I get back from Texas. So
So that's like four. Is that your four for the
Those are
bet?
my four. You will know what I have on the ground by March 10th at the latest, but probably much
And
sooner.
we'll be just started. Might have a few on the ground by then. So it's getting real, folks. And let me tell you, Danielle, I had to do hooves today, CDT. I was treat for of course the winter yucky mites that they get seems every year in my barn. So treated for mites, and then drew blood and shaved some first freshener udders. And let me tell you, Danielle, this is not going to be a runaway win victory on your part. We have a chance. I'm just saying, there's a chance. So
Okay.
don't even no, folks that are listening to the audio portion of this. She's just sitting there shaking her head like this poor guy thinks that he's got a chance. I do. I do.
So I feed 6 does on the stand each time I'm feeding grain to the animals. And right now I have 2 age does that are retired does that come out as well and get a little bit of grain. And thank goodness they come out, because otherwise those 6 would not fit on my round of 6 would not fit on the stand. So
Well, either would I, and I'm pregnant with 0. So touche, right? That's a point for me. Uh, yeah, we're barns clean, goats are ready. We just need to induce them when it's time. I don't know exact date that I'm going to induce yet because we're worried about playoffs for work, and it could happen that weekend. So I've got this week. I'll know more in detail of when those playoffs are going to be happening. And I actually have a funny story that I didn't share with you, Danielle, of how this recording right now almost didn't happen.
were you sick?
So, well, guys, end of the podcast. No, I was not sick, Danielle. I when we decided when we were going to record this, I looked at a schedule that my boss had put up, and I had taken a picture of it on my phone. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we're nothing happened in that day. It's great." So then last week, like Wednesday, I'd say last Wednesday, I was on scrolling the old Facebooks, and I saw an ad for a wrestling match that was happening at my job for today. And I was like, huh. So I go to my boss and I was like, bad news for you, buddy. It's like, I saw that we have wrestling this Sunday. And he's like, yep, sure do. And I was like, yeah, you didn't put me on the schedule for it along with anybody else. So yeah, I played the dude I made plans card, and they're dealing with wrestling while I'm talking about goats.
Well, I am so appreciative of the fact that you put this over the wrestling match that you would have had to
Yeah,
go
who,
out.
who needs overtime? It's fine.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, Danielle, unless you have something else you want to talk about that's going on in your farm, should we move into some ad news?
Let's go for it.
What do we got? Because I'm nothing much really, right?
No, there was several big things that happened in the last week. We started out, and this always seems to happen, that we release an episode and right after this episode is released, the national show judges were released as well. So
Oh
in
yeah, that big thing. Who would have thunk
minor
it?
details, but so the 6 judges for the national show were selected. So congratulations to Mark Baden, Todd Biddle, Bob Bartholomew, Joe Pilot, Scott Bice, and Timothy Flickinger. They will be judging the national show in Louisville on July 13th through the 19th. With that, breed selection will and scheduling for breeds will be announced much closer to the show in that regard.
every year, and I was one of these people. You see somebody the next day, they're like, "Well, so what breeds are they judging, and what's the schedule?" It's like, all right, I get it. I want to know too, right? Am I going to Louisville or am I not? Like that type of situation. That's what everybody seems to be playing, that kind of card. Uh, yeah, and it'll come out soon. Like, just be patient. I mean, I want to know too, so we can kind of see what day Tierney's going to fly out with Alice and watch the show and help and all that. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Exactly.
Uh,
I'm excited. It makes it just that much closer to happening and kind of getting my butt kicked into gear to get ready for that.
let's get the doughs fresh first, right? So, is there anything else going on this week?
There is. So there was an announcement that pre-TC and TC special for any judges or judges candidates or people just interested in learning more about the scorecard and confirmation of the goats are happening or is happening in Cookeville, Tennessee on May 3rd through 5th. So if anybody is looking to become a judge or needs to renew their license, there is a special TC happening in May, and um, there are only 25 spots open for candidates. So if you are considering it, be sure to reach out to Karen Smith about it and get your spot reserved for that. Or if you have any questions, be sure to check with her about it because spots are limited.
Spots are limited. This is the only other TC besides what's happening at convention. From what I've seen or heard on Facebook, it seems like this will be a little bit cheaper of an option than if you were to go to Wisconsin. Obviously, because you're paying for the daily fee to attend convention and all that stuff. So, if you want to just go and to the judges TC, definitely might want to look into getting a spot in Tennessee.
Yes. And that kind of transitions me really quickly to, it's not quite ADGA news, but it's just kind of judging things. In the last week or so, have received a lot of judging requests from chairs, which it's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to judging in a lot of different places this year. But with that, I don't want to speak for the whole judges community, but I just want to kind of put it out there that my calendar is filling up, and I'm sure I'm not the only one whose calendar is filling up. And it's gotten to the point where there's several shows that unfortunately I've had to turn down just simply because I'm booked. And these shows are coming up quick on the schedule. So if you are a show chair, get those judging requests and try and find your judges as soon as possible because it'll just make your life so much easier in the future.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Danielle, what is our topic today? Is there anything special going on, or?
Oh, no, there's nothing special going on at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, perfect episode. Wrap
That's
her
it,
up.
we're done. No, it is, as we mentioned. Well, do you want to say it?
Episode 200, the big 200, and one that I honestly am shocked where we've met this milestone from when we first started this silly little podcast. It's grown into something much bigger than I could have ever thought. And it's really cool that we're still going. We're still as enthusiastic about dairy goats and goats in general. And it's a proud moment. It's pretty cool. And you've been here for a majority of it, Danielle. You've been here for over 120 episodes.
I find that absolutely crazy, and I honestly don't know where the time has gone in that regard. I know it's been a couple of years now, and I mean, I realize I'm judging it based on how old your child is because you started this with tier with I don't even know if Alice had been conceived at that point, or I don't know where she was in all of this process, but like I remember one of the episodes was you and Tierney getting ready for the fact that you were going to have a new farm kid, and what was that going to be like, and how were you going to take her to shows and all of those things. And now you have a 3-year-old who is just
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So it started, I think the first episode was July 2020, maybe August 2020, but Alice was not here yet, obviously. You're right, we had an episode uh talking about farm kids, and yeah, you're right. It's literally this podcast is older than my child. This is nuts. I didn't even want to think about that. I'm really kind of sad now. Like we need to stop so that we can like my kid can stop growing. That'd be great.
yeah, you don't have a choice on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was very apparent. No, we I guess I'll start with the beginning, and I'm sure most people that are listening in have been here close to, if not from the beginning. But yeah, the first episode, the Bucks got out with me and Nate Funk, and it was just kind of an introductory of Nate, and I had a trailer before that was kind of introductory of me. It's very cringy. I'm pretty sure I deleted it off of this podcast because no, no, we're not gonna do that. So so it starts off with the introduction of Nate as co-host, and then fast forward awesome episodes to episode 79, 79 I think, or maybe 78, where we said goodbye to Nate and talked about that whole process. And the next episode, I think it was 79, we introduced you, Danielle, as a co-host.
Yes, exactly. Now let's back up though, because just like Alice, this podcast is very much your baby.
Yes.
But how did, all right, for people who are newer, how did this podcast come to be?
Well, during the pandemic, good old COVID, um, I had a dream, a weird dream, where Nate Funk and I were leaning over a fence talking into a microphone about dairy goats during a show. Like, I don't know if it was real life, the judge would have turned around and been like, "Would you guys just shut up?"
It would have
But
been like the Best in Show scene, right? Or in that movie, Best in Show.
yes, yes, exactly. So, so I told Nate about this dream I had, and he's like, "Nah, bro, no, that's silly." And I kind of munched on it. I write down a lot of my dreams, as you know, Danielle. I shared one of mine the other day. We won't talk about it, but
Not happening.
so yeah, it's not happening for the show, that's for sure. So yeah, I kind of molded over. I made a recording, the trailer by myself, shared it with Nate, and I said, "Listen, man, this is really raw, but I think there's something to this." And he listened to it. He was like, "You're right. It's pretty bad, but you're right. It's there's something to it." It was terrible, Danielle, and it was on. I'm sure some of the OGs have listened to it. It was on here for like 2 or 3 years before I was like, "This does not need to exist." So, but yeah, and from that, Ringside was born. The idea initially was just to talk about subjects with Nate and I. Quickly, I was like, listen, man, it would be more interesting if we brought in other people from other herds, judges, anybody in between, vets, and we did that. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, Daniel. I'm going to say that we did a good job doing that. Uh, very successful. The podcast was very successful. I owe a lot of it to Nate. I really do. And it was a great ride with Nate on here, very enjoyable. And we he said his goodbyes, and then we added you on, and the growth that like we went from here, but then like we really grew in the last 2.5. I think you've been on 2.5 years now, Danielle, and it's like just the quality of people that we've had on. Not saying that people that we had on before weren't quality, but the level of editing I put forth into what we're doing, listening to old episodes, it was like, holy cow, we did zero editing. And then to now where I am like, oh my god, this person said let me get rid of it. Oh, there's a 2 second space here. Still having issues with the mics and stuff, but we'll get there. But it's crazy the day and night difference, stark difference that it's been. So I got to ask you, Danielle, because everybody knows my Batman story of how I became Batman. But let's hear your Superman story, how you became Superwoman, how your thoughts when I asked you to join, your thoughts when you first kind of came on to now, because it's been a while and you've been here for quite some time.
No pressure. I thought that we were just going to move on to the next question and doesn't have to be
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah, well, no, but you're very much a part of this podcast as much as I am.
No,
So
I'm
please.
aware of that, but like this part I didn't have to focus on this part.
That's what
No,
makes me a great co-host, Danielle.
thanks so much. What happened to never mind. Um Well, I had come on as a guest early on. You dragged me on for an episode or two and just really enjoyed it. And so when you asked, I thought it would be fun. It was a kind of no-brainer and just jumped in and tried to figure out where I could or what I could bring to this and what I wanted to share in the process. And it's been an amazing ride. And it's just the people we get to talk to. I always say I'm selfish about it sometimes because we're asking people I want to have a conversation with and I want to pick their brain. And what better way than to do it and also share it with the whole Ringside community that is listening as well. But I just I guess, yeah, I just jumped in, said sure, and here we are now.
Yeah,
Not much of a
it was
Superman
a
or
fast yes.
Superwoman origin story, but
Well, you do a lot of heavy lifting. You really do. But it was when I asked you, it was a very like quick yes. Like it wasn't like a oh, let me think about it. You were like pause, silent pause. Yeah, yeah, I could do that. And I was like, oh, all right, this was easy. Let's go. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool where we've how we've grown together as friends and as co-hosts and as a show. You know, we've been lucky enough to have some sponsors through the way, which helps offset the cost. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. So what do we have next as on our agenda before we move to our listeners that are listening in on this call right now?
well, I want to hear, and you're going to hate me for this, but I want to hear, and I think you talked about this at one point or another, but I just feel like for everybody who hasn't listened, or maybe things have changed, I want to hear the story of your favorite or the most memorable fan or listener encounter that
You're
you
such
have.
you know exactly what this is. So I don't know why we're asking this question. But the most memorable thing that's happened to me on this podcast is at the 22 National Show. Uh, it was, I ran into a lot of awesome listeners, a lot of fun people, breeders, judges, everybody. It was really cool. People that we've had on the show. It was nice to meet some people in person. Can't wait to do that again at Louisville. But with that, there was an encounter. It was later in, I think it was, I think it was during the day. I decided to take a shower because it was just hot. I think we were getting ready for wine and cheese or something. I forget. All I remember is what had happened was, and what had happened was, I go to take a shower. I hear somebody come in, and I don't think anything of it. It's a public restroom, right? So I'm taking my shower. I get done. I get out. Thank goodness I brought my drawers with me in the shower, so I could at least be in drawers if there were people present. And sure enough, I come out and there's a person standing right there, and they're like, "You're John Kane." And I was like, "Yes, I am." And they're like, how, "How you doing? I'm a huge fan of Ringside," and I'm like, "I'm doing really great. I should get dressed, so I'm gonna get dressed real quick." And it was a super awkward thing. I gotta say, folks, not just Goat World people, but in say you run into a celebrity that you like. Not saying I'm a celebrity, but say you run into.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Rich.
I'm not.
John thinks he's a
Please, I'm
celebrity.
not. But when you run into somebody that you're a fan of or something, wait until they're outside of a restroom. I get they're cornered; they can't go anywhere, so you can pressure them to talk. Love talking to the fans. Would prefer to do it outside of a restroom or shower. That'd be great. So that's my most intriguing moment. I knew you were going to bring that up. What's yours, Danielle?
All right. So I always think it's really cool when I go somewhere and I'm traveling in the dairy goat sphere and somebody starts talking about a conversation we had on Ringside or a topic we were talking about. Always love the feedback. One of my favorites is thank God you keep John in line and you and more and like just you give it right back to him in terms of your comments and things like that. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
No,
Listen, I know. Yeah, I'd be like the Fonz wearing a leather jacket, hitting the jukebox, like, "Hey, let me push these buttons." I get it.
yeah. But I have to say the best, and it's probably just because um I was a part of it, but and kind of created this was when we had the booth at Louisville and we had created these kind of promo cards to give out and hand out that had our info,
Oh dear. Yes.
had a way to listen to the podcasts and all of those things. I may or may not have gotten a few people because prior to that, I had been giving John a hard time and joking about how he's going to have to bring Sharpie markers because people are going to be asking for his autograph. And so I was giving him a hard time, made sure we packed Sharpie markers. And then I made sure that there were several people there that were asking and having him sign those little cards. So just
Yes. Yes. No. 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 So the first person, I was like, "This is really weird." Okay. I signed my name. I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Can I get a picture?" I'm like, "Great." And it was like maybe another person, but then I knew something was up when Nikki Rivard comes up and she's like, "Oh, it's John Payne. Can I get your autograph?" And I'm like, I look over and you're just like dying laughing. I'm like, all right, you got me. You got me. So yeah, good play. Good play. Maybe
you're welcome.
maybe the best moment might be you making ridiculous bets with me, knowing that I'm going to lose, and making me wear t-shirts at
Oh,
shows. Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
There are people that are saying, to even the odds, maybe we should do it buck-doe ratio.
Well, we can into that for 2025. Sure.
Well, we haven't started with 2024 yet.
We've already set the bet. If it's on the
That's true.
podcast, it must be true.
This is true. This is true. Even if we goof on what we're saying, it
I,
must be true. So, yeah. What about, have you had any experiences with people on that have made you change what you're doing in your herd, or has helped improve your herd because of what's been said on the podcast? Like, is there anything like that?
I think it does motivate me because when I'm hearing from these other people or learning from them, you're also getting their passion and their influence in terms of why they are working with dairy goats. And so then you take that, or I take that back to my herd and think, okay, am I doing all I can do, or what can I do better? And I know that there is always more you can do, and how do I best put my herd, put my best foot forward for my herd. And I just get inspired by these people we talk to, or the conversations we have get me thinking critically about different things, whether it's how my herd should look, or what I should expect from my herd, what it looks like in terms of size, scale, what we're doing. There's a lot that happens because of this podcast that consciously or even subconsciously is driving my herd's direction and motivating to have the best herd possible.
Yeah, there's so just the podcast alone. When I first started it, there was a lot of pushback on, well, why does he think that he's able to start a podcast, right? Like what makes him so knowledgeable and special, right? So with me, it was like, okay, I've got to do really well. I just have to. My goats have to do well. They've got to go. They like everything's got to be up to snuff. So from when we first started to where we are now, the difference in herds crazy because Kurt Schnipke with calling and Call to You Cry, like him and I are really good friends and we talk about it all the time. Other people, Mark Baden, 40-40-40, looking at the scorecard, like just all these things have helped me see goats, have helped me see my herd. And I've been really critical on them because when I go out to shows and people go, "Oh, are you John Kane?" I don't want them to go, "Oh, are you John Kane?" And they look at my pen and they go, "Oh, you know, I don't want that." So that's how this podcast has helped me grow and learn. And plus, we've had amazing guests on that have really taught me a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people listening.
No, I agree.
What are we messaging, Danielle? What do you got going on there?
I'm struggling. We got a little bit of audio issues. I think I have an echo right now.
Oh, it's you? Oh, I haven't heard any echoes from you.
Okay, but no, people are hearing on the live part of this that there's a little bit of an echo. So
Is it me or are we good?
no, it's me.
It is. Okay.
Surprise, surprise. I'm the problem. It's me.
This is ongoing theme. Although we usually get yours figured out before we start recording. Uh, my issues are if like I'm like, oh, I just decide I don't. What is Ashley saying? Um, my issue is like I think I'm set up properly, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it was pulling from my computer's mic and not my microphone that's in front of my face that I'm speaking into and using the soundboard and everything. So yeah, it's always something. We always tend to pan it out. This is live, folks. This is the fun part of it.
Yes, exactly. So speaking of live, do we want to see like anybody has any questions, wants to come on and introduce himself and ask a question, and we'll talk about it here and
Absolutely. And I just want to give a quick round of applause. Ashley Clark has turned on her camera, and you look in much better shape than I do as far as mid-kidding season goes. You look great, Ashley, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm just happy I had like a 2-week break and gearing up. End of the week, we'll be kidding goats out again, but I'm hoping they hold out until at least March 1st. I have the next one due March 2nd, and I'm done with senior kids. So if they could just wait and then we have intermediate kids, that would be great.
That would be great. And I just got to ask, what kind of plane are you flying there with that headset you've got on?
This is brand new.
Is that a Cessna you're
It's
in?
high tech, isn't it? I mean,
It looks legit.
Yeah, I bet it's expensive or something for his work, but oh, it's
You're
not
gonna have to ask.
expensive. Okay, so for the right price of not a lot of money, you too could wear something this good looking.
You're coming in clearer than probably Danielle and I both are.
Yeah,
So I
it's
gotta
really
give it to you.
comfortable too. So I'm just saying.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ashley. It's great.
thank you.
Do you want to Ashley? Do you want to kick us off with a question? Do you have one for us?
Yeah. So Danielle, have you been thinking of names for John's goats?
Oh,
Listen, folks, first of all, ground rules. Everybody cannot ask this question, okay?
well, can I just share one that I think is amazing first? And I just because I don't think it's quite perfect yet. But
Okay, sure.
and I don't even know if it fits in terms of the numbers. But I think it would be funny if it's Hilaire Farm talk is cheap.
Hmm.
I
I
like
don't
it.
know. I mean,
Okay.
just playing on the podcast idea, maybe avoiding Oberhausley Nubian competition. It's a work in progress.
I actually wouldn't mind that one, so that might be a do better just because I actually like wouldn't be crying about it every time I saw that goat in my barn.
Okay.
Although it'd probably be going by cheap, so I don't know. Maybe.
It could be Talker. It could be Talker. We do have
Yeah.
someone that is raising their hand to ask a question. I don't believe their name is shared on this Zoom. So if you I'm going to I think I can oh no, you are good to go general appearance. So if you want to introduce yourself and you're heard and then ask your question, go for it.
So yeah, long time listener, first time caller. That's great. So you guys get hate mail. You just went all over about how you got all these fans across the country, but how about the hate mail?
Oh.
um, I've gotten a few emails and strongly worded messages about certain topics that I brought up that maybe people didn't agree with. Um, but you kind of, as you may know, you kind of just tend to let it roll off your back, right?
I get a fair amount of hate mail. Yep, that's true.
And
So,
you
but
deal with it
fan
okay?
experiences. Let's talk about fan experiences for a minute, because content creation is a difficult business. I'll give you that. All right. So, a couple stories real quick. I was at the convention this year wearing my little name badge in the elevator, minding my business, had to get to a dinner just like you were trying to get to your shower. And this little lady on a little power scooter, right? She can't quite get around. And she says, "Oh, you're Jim." And she whips it into the corner, pins me there. And we ride from floor 0 to floor 11 4 times before I could get out because she had questions she wanted to know. So I have to come here to learn ag news, right? That's where you learn the ag news. So I'm always interested in that. And then I don't want to, take over here. This will be my last thing, but national show last year, some lady comes in, she sits down with her entries and she wants to check in her animals. And she says, "Oh, you're Jim. I always pictured you as a little old man." I said, "Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you, thinking about me, but I always pictured you as a much younger woman." And just kind of left it at that. So you can have a back and forth with, the people as you meet them on the road, John. It's okay. Even in the shower. Now, I don't take it that far. I've not taken any ag members in the shower, but good for you.
Well, thank you. And for folks that might not know who they're listening to, that was the voice of Jim Vanderland, which is the ADGA PPM. So thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you listening for the ADGA news. We bring just the best ADGA news that we could possibly bring. And I appreciate you with the experience you've had. I know you've had quite the experience with ADGA, and I hope you continue to because I appreciate you as PPM, and yeah, just super happy that you're here. Cool.
And I want to talk about kind of what we do because when we do receive things that maybe we're not happy about receiving in terms of comments, things like that, I think first of all, there's a lovely filter called Danielle, and I very much am in a kind of you bubble it, you send it back and forth. I mean, listen, if we get hacked, we're in so much trouble because some of the texts that we send back and forth, that's just how you're venting. And then you put something out there that's as positive as you can be. And you just have to have humor with it too, because ultimately, I mean, we're all goat people and we're just
Yeah, no, and the luxury is I do have a Danielle to filter things out, but also when it comes time to put my foot down or put anyone's foot down, we do because we're lucky enough that we work for ourselves and we can do what we want.
right. And I mean, we're also people who learn and adapt. I remember when I first started, I was saying it was agda instead of adga. And
Yeah,
more or
yeah,
less, what had happened was when I was growing up, my mentor was saying agda instead of adga. And I was just kind of going with it and never put two and two together that my G and my D as in my pronunciation were being off and it's not quite how it was. And people commented, and then the next couple episodes I really focused on making sure I was either saying the American Dairy Goat Association or ADGA, and just adapting with it. And it's the best way, but humor is great as well. And I think we do a lot in terms of that as well, to just kind of make sure we're not letting the people, anything that happens get to us. And yeah.
yeah, for sure. Danielle, do you want to go to the next person? Anybody want to raise your hand and we can uh, let you speak? Don't be shy, folks. I see a familiar name in here, and I'm just going to unmute this person in a second and see if she just wants to shoot the crap.
We have
Go.
Clarice coming in. Clarice, feel free to ask your question.
Hi guys.
Hey.
My name is Clarice. I actually don't have dairy goats, but I have spent many, many hours listening to you guys talk about dairy goats.
You're probably the best one here because you're not dealing with them.
I have actually many silky fainting goats, so I have learned a lot of really good information that can still like apply to my herd. So I love listening to the podcast. It's fantastic. So I guess my question is, what are your civilian jobs? Like, what do you do when you're not doing goats?
Ooh, good question.
I'll go. Oh, do you want to go first, Danielle?
No,
And then I'll
go
kind of.
for it. Go for it.
So I work for a college, working athletics. And I used to be pretty open about where I work, but I've actually had an issue with a listener that caused me to kind of refrain from saying where I work and what I do. But I do work for athletics. I am supervising facilities and events, and spend a lot of time with erratic schedules because of such, especially when you get into playoffs and those kind of situations. But yeah, I work with people and make sure buildings don't catch fire and kind of do that kind of thing. Danielle?
So the short answer to what I do is I work for a privately funded foundation that supports a public garden and am in charge of some of the communication and development of that garden. It is open to the public. We get visitors from around the world, but my job is more behind the scenes in the office, soliciting donations from different people, as well as doing some of the communications and logistics for the garden as well. So totally different from dairy goats, but
Yeah.
yeah, it works because it offers me a lot of flexibility. My office is 5 minutes from the barn, but I can work remote whenever I need to. And when I need to escape, I go to a beautiful garden to take pictures, and walk around and do all of that. So very different from this, but some of the same things that we have to deal with and dairy goats apply to what I do with that in terms of just communicating with people, dealing with organizational things, and
Yeah. Our jobs are kind of similar only in the fact that there's a lot of flexibility.
that we have jobs.
Yeah, that we have jobs, but there's also a lot of flexibility in what we do. You know, if you have a doe kidding or you have an emergency on the farm, they allow you that time, and you can sometimes work from home or whatever. With me, this time of year is crazy, but as we're winding down, my kidding season starts. So it's like, if I need to take a longer lunch, or if I need to just run home real quick and check on an animal, they allow that. And so I think a lot of dairy goat people, or goat people in general, have a lot of flexibility in their jobs, I've found. Grace Toy, did I see your hand up there? Was that hand up for Grace Toy?
Totally. I did a speed round milking just to get on here. I should say, when I saw somebody named General Appearance on here, I almost said I'd be really scared if they just showed their feet. Like, can we just, what part of General Appearance are we talking?
It's a pun, right?
Something like that.
I mean, I was thinking about leading with feet are worth 15 or something like that, but I thought, General Appearance fits.
I think it's fitting. Well, and we broke Jon over it, so we're good.
You broke me. I was, the whole time, I'm like, maybe it's got to be somebody that is a friend of the podcast. But I was thinking maybe like Kurt Schnipke or somebody, because there's a lore, if you're a guest on this show, that a lot of times my name does not appear on the call as John Kane. It appears as Silly Things. So the fact that there was a General Appearance, I was like, oh, this is somebody that's been on the show before. But I guess that'll have to be for another day, huh, Jim?
We'll see what AGA policy allows.
Grace Toy, happy kidding season. I know you're deep into it. How's life treating you? Doing all right?
I mean, I have a few days off, so last one kidded a few days ago, and kind of like Ashley, my next one's due the 3rd. So I'm hoping I can actually sleep through the night a few nights, to find some kind of sanity back.
Shouldn't have said that.
Exactly. That's what happens. So, and I just confirmed goat spread for June and have to send blood tests on more because my goats really don't like me this year. But Jim will be thrilled to know that there's going to be a DNA parentage coming in for either a La Mancha or 2 Nubian bucks that were on purpose. So June's going to be great.
It's very low ranking in the whole spectrum of DNA. Don't worry about it.
At least they're all typed. We don't have to do any guesswork. No buck kids got out.
Don't feel bad, Grace. I've got 3 of those coming.
It's always the weather.
I do have a son in weather, but I think he's interested enough in his buck buddy that he's not too worried.
All right, editing. Okay, what time is it? Okay, good. Got it. Gonna just put that there. Thank you, Grace. That's all the time we have for Grace.
Welcome.
Right,
well,
Grace,
how about I think Danielle has more name ideas, so she kind of stole my question, but I think we have some really great ideas for Jon's kid. I think all of our money's on Danielle right now.
I did set rules when Ashley asked her question, Grace, and please abide by them.
Danielle's being very fair because Grace and I have come up with some great names that she has shot down. So, she's being kind to you.
Eventually she'll crack and pick one.
Probably.
Well, we are actually friends, guys. We don't end this phone or this recording and not speak to each other for the rest of the week. So the fact that Danielle is shooting down some of your guys' probably obnoxious names I'm not surprised. She's a true friend. She's an OG.
I think the real truth is that I know that there is something that you are going I don't know what it is yet, but inspiration is going to strike, and there's going to be a name that you are going to hate, and it's going to be perfect. And I've received a lot of great name suggestions. I've come up with some myself, but I just don't think I have the right name yet. I'm going to say that in answering the question, that there's something that is just going to come to me when I need to ultimately figure it out. And that's just how it's going to be. So all the suggestions I've been receiving have just kind of been subconsciously percolating, and just looking, something's going to come from that, and it's going to be John's best doe, and he's going to have to keep her, and he's going to
I get to, no, hold on. Wait a minute.
No,
Hold on.
hold on. No. I don't think you're misunderstanding what I'm talking about. It's just
Okay.
like the luck. You're going to name this keeper kid. And
Oh, okay. And you're gonna say it's gonna turn into like,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. The
Okay.
most influential Hilaire Farm doe is going to be Hilaire Farm.
That would be
by
karma, man.
Danielle is Hilaire Farm. Danielle is the best co-host. Hilaire, I don't know, but there'll be there'll be something good. I don't want to spoil it because I think there's something good coming in the pipeline for that.
But this is also a great distraction from our master plan of Danielle and I are going to get Alice and Nubian at some point. So, you know, like, we'll keep you busy with this while we work on that project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good luck though, guys. I'm sorry, but she's a Guernsey type of girl for whatever reason. So, yeah, good luck with that. We'll see.
A little birdie told me she liked spotted Nubians, though.
Is that why I was asked about a La Mancha raffle kid the other day? You know, hey, if I won this, could you hang on to it? No?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
This
Tierney
podcast is just going off the rails.
Well,
and to save
John, I didn't buy any raffle tickets yet. Thank you, Danielle. Please
and to save John, do any of our other guests want to come on and ask their questions?
This has gone a real Western while we're waiting. Just want you to know that. Super Western.
Poor John.
My brain has broke twice today now. It's good. It's good.
Again. It's silent violin. Oh. All right, Caitlin, come on and ask your question.
Hey guys, I'm Caitlin with Galaxy Goats, up in New York, upstate New York. My question actually is, do you guys have a moment in your goat raising career where a mistake, accident, tragedy, whatever, has totally changed the way you do things or taught you a really important lesson that you remember?
Yeah, Danielle thinks of hers. One comes to mind right away for me. And that was last year, kidding season. As a lot of our listeners know, I induce all my does, or at least most of them. So that way I'm there for it with my work schedule and everything. It just makes it easier to get it kind of close to when I know they're going to kid. And last year, I had a first freshener that was due. I induced her. I was checking my camera a ton, and I made the mistake of pushing what I thought was snooze to check the camera, which, whatever. I ended up turning it off, and luckily Tierney, if this was at like 4 in the morning or something like that, and luckily Tierney wakes up pretty early, so at 5:30 she shook me and was like, "Hey, I hear noise," and I look, and there's a kid in the shavings, and doe that's pawing because she's pushing, and I go down there with Tierney, and we did everything we could to save that kid, but it just didn't work out. Now the kid had, didn't look like the doe kid was great health wise to begin with. I don't know if she got pawed and she just kind of got a little bit beat up, but she just wasn't looking super healthy anyway. But she died. She was from our best doe of last year, and it was a pretty hard hit. So now I'm learned that even though we're tired during kidding season, you got to be a little bit more vigilant. And honestly, with that though, this year, I'll probably be sleeping in the barn while she's induced and waiting for her to kid. But yeah, that's one that sticks with me. That during kidding season, we're all tired, but you got to be a little bit more vigilant. So yeah, that's one that sticks right there.
I think for me, the moment that really probably impacted my herd the most, but also has changed a lot of how I operate. And I believe I might have started talking about it on an episode or two ago, is I was giving a mineral, I guess would be the best way, or minerals, an injection, and had 2 bottles of this medication to give, and didn't realize that when I was giving it that it was several years expired. I thought it was okay. And so with that, I gave my whole pen of soon to be yearlings an injection of this this medicine. And so with that, the next day, I started having a doe that was more or less experiencing an extreme looked almost like she was having a clostridial reaction. And hold on one second. Okay.
The old Dottie strikes it.
Dolly had to make
Dolly
an
strikes it down.
appearance. So thought she was having a clostridial reaction to just being given medicine. And we did blood work on her, and the vet found these crazy high elevated results that just didn't make sense with what I had given her and what was going on. And the next day, so we lost her that night. The next day, one of her other herdmates in the pen ended up showing similar symptoms of this. And so we started treating it, thinking it was a Clostridium. I believe she was seizing. There was a lot going on with her. But ultimately we drew blood work and once again figured out that this doe was showing these crazy elevated levels of just all of these things, including selenium, that just didn't quite make sense. We attempted to save her, and at this point we realized that my expired bottle of this medication was ultimately really, really concentrated because it was being stored in my barn, exposed to the weather, exposed to the heat, exposed to the cold. And because it was old, the water had evaporated, and what was left in this left of the bottle was a very concentrated dosage of this medication. And part of it was selenium. And with the concentration, I was ultimately poisoning my goats and giving them selenium poisoning. So we lost 2 does. I lost the last doe kid from one of my does. I lost what was probably going to be a very promising doe kid from another animal. Weirdly, I had 2 does affected. I had another doe, or I had 2 does that were totally fine. But with that, it was a very expensive lesson as we were trying to save this doe. We ultimately didn't. Learned a lot about like emergency doe care. Was waking up every 3 hours around the clock to keep her sedated and keep her flush with fluids, because that was the only way we were going to try and save her. So learned a lot that way, but also learned ultimately long story very short, that medications are they do so much good, but there is also the risks involved. And with that, I've become very cautious of what I'm using, how I'm using it, and then also how I'm storing it, and then abiding by those expiration dates, because it was a very costly lesson to learn in so many ways, but a very important one that I had to learn.
Yeah, those tough lessons aren't cheap ever, it seems.
No.
So it definitely you definitely try to learn that lesson once if we can. Anybody else want to say anything before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we probably have time for like one more question if there is somebody here who wants to ask it.
I'm shocked that nobody asked me my names for Danielle's animals, but whatever. Speak now or forever hold your peace, folks. You only get on episode 200 one time. All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you so much for everybody that took the time to join us. I know it's Sunday. I know it's late. Everybody's got work on Monday. But I am glad that you all joined us with special surprise guests too, like craziness. I gotta say thank you to Danielle for sticking with this thing. It's been crazy fun, but also crazy. And there are weeks that it's kind of tough to pull our schedules together to really make sure that we have a good recording that is quality to put out to the public. But we somehow do it. I think we've missed 2 weeks total in the last 120 episodes. So thank you, Danielle, for joining. It's been a fun ride.
Yes, no, echo all of that. And I also want to say that I'm just so grateful that I mean, we do this for ourselves, but we also do it because people are listening. And the fact that people are listening really does mean the world to us. And we couldn't be doing this, and we wouldn't be doing this without everyone listening, without people being willing to come on and talk to us. And it just has been amazing. And I'm just really grateful for all of it and all the different aspects that make these episodes week in and week out. And so again, just so very grateful and so appreciative of all of it.
Yeah, and this isn't the end. Next week, we'll be talking about how far ahead Danielle is in this kidding season bet and how kidding season is, as she's got a doe that was due yesterday. But hey, newbie and things, right? Danielle, if people wanted to find us on the internet, where can they do that?
You can find us by searching Ringside, an American Dairy Goat podcast on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok by searching Ringside Podcast. There may even be a little bit of content coming from me on the TikToks, which, like, I don't know how that's happening, but I got inspired the other day. And so there may be a couple things from me. It's not all Jon, the next couple of things, so be sure to look there. You can also find us at dairygoatpodcast.com, and you can listen to us weekly on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, everybody, this has been episode 200 of Ringside, an American Dairy Goat podcast. I'm Jon.
And I'm Danielle.
Make sure you eat your vegetables. We'll catch you on the next one. Good night.
Ringside, an American Dairy Goat podcast, is not an affiliate of the American Dairy Goat Association. All opinions or information regarding the ADGA does not represent the registry.